Would you like to work for 32 hours a week instead of 40? If you're like most Americans, you work 40 hours a week or more and are too booked to have any time for family or friends, too exhausted to do anything after work or on the weekends where you just want to unwind. How would you like an extra day off? Like I said, like most Americans, you sell your time for a living. And in the words of Sean Fain, president of the UAW, if you look back on your life as a retiree or as an old person, you don't wish you worked more. You wish you had more time. And a long shot bill is proposing Americans the chance to have more time to do what they want with their lives, an extra day off, or perhaps multiple days off, capping the full-time work week in America at 32 hours. This bill, presented by Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, is going to be the focus of today's video. Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, an independent, has proposed a bill that would shorten the American standard work week to 32 hours, making anything beyond 32 hours overtime, and providing benefits to any employee working 32 hours, with no loss in pay to employees that were working 40 hours. This is essentially a raise to Americans who are salaried or hourly and are working 40 hours a week. They would be getting the value of an extra day's work while having an extra day off. And in my opinion, since Americans have had stagnant wages for multiple decades, this is long overdue, as wealth has been siphoned from the bottom 50% of Americans to the top 10 and especially 1%. Sounds pretty nice, right? Well, if you like that idea, you're not alone. Belgium has already made their standard work week 32 hours. Norway and Denmark already have an average work week of about 37 hours, and a proposition in France to make their work week 32 hours is already in the works. A 32-hour, 4-day standard work week would be a tremendous help. On average, an American worker works 204 hours more per year than Japan with its infamous toxic work culture, and 274 more hours per year than the UK, a very similar, comparable Western democracy. And a shattering fact that few people want to address that Bernie Sanders brings up in his hearing for the 32-hour workweek bill is that 28.5 million Americans, that's 15% of the workforce, work 60 hours a week or more. 40% of Americans work at least 50 hours a week. We are extremely overworked, with many of us working 2 jobs or pulling all-nighters and 12-hour days at our regular jobs for overtime pay, which we need just to make rent, which is exorbitantly expensive across the country and especially in the coastal states. That's an incredible amount of work ethic and strain on the American worker. And what do we get for it? We work the same hours that we did in 1940 when the standard work week was established by the Fair Labor Standards Act, and we make $50 less a week than we did 50 years ago when adjusted for inflation. Wages have not kept up with inflation. In fact, they have fallen behind. So don't let anybody tell you that raising wages for low-wage workers would cause inflation. Parrot this back to them. Inflation will increase no matter what, at a standard rate of about 1% to 2% per year. Our dollar will lose its value. Inflation will spike sometimes when the economy goes through strenuous periods like the COVID pandemic, but generally, inflation will always proceed, which means every year, your money will be worth less and less while you get zero pay raise from your employer. In the absence of real wage growth for Americans, they will eventually live in poverty due to inflation. And in the cases of some commodities, they will far outpace inflation because of their speculative nature. Commodities like housing are already seeing skyrocketing prices due to the confounding nature of our current housing market. I made a video on that as well. I'll leave a link down below if you want to check that out. Now, as much as this bill might be popular with workers, with real American people, it has bipartisan resistance in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. Bernie Sanders likely understands this all too well, and yet he wants to have a conversation about this topic because this topic has evolved to an international conversation that has excluded America, and he wants Americans to be talking about a 32-hour work week. I respect that. The counter arguments to this, brought up by Senator Cassidy in the hearing for a 32-hour workweek bill, are less than faithful, often misrepresent the facts, and rely on the, let's say, assumptions and built-in common sense of the American work ethic, which I said earlier is driving Americans to work 60 hours a week sometimes for 15% of the workforce and 50 hours for 40% of the workforce. That work ethic is not fairly compensated. It's simply not. Both Democrats and Republicans oppose this bill, and for reasons I don't fully comprehend, unless they simply want workers to stay stressed out, overworked, and exhausted. I can think of a few reasons why they might want to do that, but I digress. The productivity gains of switching to a 32-hour work week are established, scientific, and material. Businesses would actually benefit from having their workers work 32 hours by productivity, because you'd actually have workers less stressed and exhausted, able to live their lives more freely, and therefore in a better state to work harder at their job, even though they're working less. This is not to mention the fact that workers have become 400% more productive than they were when the Fair Labor Standards Act was passed in 1940, or according to Sean Fain, a worker today now does the work of 12 workers back then. And none of the benefits of this massive technological advancement that has boosted productivity globally has ever affected the wage of the worker that gives their time to it. Workers are now way more productive than they were in the past, still work the same hours, even though they could work less and earn more. That would be fair. But again, the resistance to the 32-hour workweek bill is not entirely honest. The rebuttals to Bernie Sanders' proposal go like this. In response to the 32-hour workweek bill, businesses would either offshore their jobs, automate away employees, lay people off, or go under completely. And I will say this, with some businesses that he says are running on razor-thin margins, that may be the case, but it's on the margins of the overall economy. The broader picture of our economy already sees businesses laying off jobs in droves. We saw a ton of tech layoffs just this last year, and there's no 32-hour workweek bill being proposed. There's no mandate from the government to do that. Businesses just lay off employees as a matter of trimming the bottom line. As for automation, we're already seeing AI and robotics take over tons and tons of jobs, both in the fields of knowledge workers and in the fields of blue-collar workers. This has been a case that has stripped jobs from the American heartland for decades, and we're now seeing a major crisis as many, again, knowledge workers and middle managers, writers, and other creatives are losing their jobs to AI. Offshoring will happen no matter what. You will lose your job to a worker who can do it cheaply overseas if your company is a giant corporation with a business network that can basically offshore their work. If they can find employees offshore, they will do it because it is cheaper. Like, businesses are not charities. They operate for profit. They don't operate to give you a job. They want you to be grateful that you were cut in on this wonderful miracle that is your job. But they don't have anything for you in terms of charity. And they will cut you out as soon as it pads the bottom line. And as for going under, businesses already go under all the time. Like, most businesses fail. It's just a fact of trying to do business in America, whether you're doing something online like e-commerce or something brick and mortar, which would be impossible unless you come from wealth. You just would be running against the odds trying to start your own business and would most likely fail or get bought out by the corporate giants that run our business oligopoly. I want to say, too, it really annoys me when we are talking about the economy and the rebuttals from politicians start to take the language of a hostage crisis. Like, now we are essentially, holding these jobs hostage. They will be cut out of the economy overall, and people will lose their jobs if you pass this bill, which is objectively good, mandating a 32-hour work week. I just hate it because it's so dishonest. Like, obviously businesses can afford to have their employees work for 32 hours and still get the same pay Like, these businesses are raking it in. They are plundering the economy. They're plundering the banking system. They are raking it in from consumers with like overall price gouging and price leadership. It's a open playing field for them to do whatever they want in terms of making massive amounts of money. And we haven't reined them in for decades, and we've allowed their taxes to drop for decades. And we are supposed to sit here and just take it because, oh, if we so much as budge an inch in favor of our own material needs politically, oh, you're going to lose your job. So don't do anything. That sounds like a hostage scenario to me. Doesn't it sound like that to you? Fortunately, that couldn't be further from the truth. If a bill like this were mandated, there would not be massive economic disruption of this variety. Really, what we would be doing is redistributing wealth by getting people back at home for a day, giving them time to unwind, rest, and relax before going back to work, and you would see surges in productivity pretty much universally. It's really quite sad that this bill stands no chance in the Senate, because it would lend a hand to working Americans who are extremely stressed out right now by rising costs of everything from housing to food to gas, and the stagnant wages that they have endured for decades. If you try to ask for some kind of improvement to your material needs, now you're the greedy one. You greedy little peasant. You should have just went to work, got paid your pennies, and got home and ate breadcrumbs. Like, get out of here. Stop trying to ask for something from the big daddy employer. They want you to feel small, separated, and isolated so that you don't have any kind of political actionability. You don't have any potential to change your material reality. But when people start asking for more, it creates trouble. And eventually, workers can simply strike or vote or something to make direct action out of their grievances. And this is just a personal one. This one hits kind of close to home because we all work. We all have jobs, right? I have a day job, you know? I don't just do this for a living. I couldn't, as it is. But our time is super valuable. Like, you only have one life, and they want to take everything they can from that one life. And a bill like this, which is humane in nature, which is pro-humanity and pro-people getting their lives back and living their lives fully, at least as full as they can, working 32 hours a week, that is seen by so many people as irresponsible, fiscally selfish, and, in the words of Senator Cassidy, placating union workers who have a stranglehold on the Democratic Party. None of this could be further from the truth, and it's gaslighting to even bring it up. Like, workers deserve more. Like, they just run everything, obviously. Like, none of this would work if people didn't get out there and do their 9 to 5. Like, the whole thing would come crashing down if the workforce of America just stopped working. So, like, people need to pay us the respect that we deserve. Like, sure, at the moment you're paid for your time, but they're paying you like you're a Toyota when you're a Lamborghini. You're getting ripped off. You're getting completely ripped off. If only we could be so lucky that a bill like this would get passed through. If only we lived in Belgium. That's a real country that exists, that has a 32-hour work week. Let that sink in. This is America. For some reason, the greatest country on the planet, the richest country on the planet, is too unlucky or too stupid to provide its workers a real benefit like a 32-hour work week. This is America, after all. I hope you liked this video. I really enjoyed making it. It's really close to home for me. I love talking about material worker issues like this. If you guys enjoyed the video as well, please leave a like down below. I'm going to continue making content on this train of thought whenever it comes up, whenever bills like this are talked about that are just kind of pro-American working class content. Like I said, these issues are personal to me. I care about them because I have a job. Please subscribe down below as a way to see my content when I post it. Ring the notification bell so you get notified when I post a new video, and comment if you like this, you just want to say hi. I would really appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you. Just knowing that somebody enjoyed this video and was inspired or comforted or educated would mean the world to me. So thanks. I'll see you guys in a week. Bye.